Hey everyone, I am so excited. We are painting through my garden. Actually, it's my mom's garden that I am helping her with, and I am just having so much fun painting the beautiful leaves and blooms and fruit and vegetables that we're discovering as the garden continues to grow. So today we are painting green tomatoes. Yes, because the tomatoes are not yet quite ready to be picked. They're quite new and green, and I am just loving painting through the garden as it grows. So join with me. Grab some paper and your paint, and we are going to have a blast painting together. Hi everyone. Okay, welcome back. We are going to start painting our garden. I've got my garden palette, which is all the colors that we're going to be using. We're going to be really focusing on the greens and the yellows with just a little bit of that cadmium red and the burnt sienna this week. So we are painting tomatoes. Now we're not painting tomatoes when they're red and ripe. We're actually painting them as I am finding them now in the garden, nice and green and growing, because this garden series we're going to be doing a little bit of chronicling the journey of the garden. So if you have a garden, I just encourage you to maybe take some pictures, figure out what you want to paint. You're going to notice too, what I have done is I have taken pictures and then created a scene where I have sketched this out. So if you want to sketch up mine, feel free to pause right here on the video. And you can see I've sketched it with micron pen so you could see it a little bit better. But I've got a pretty nice big leaf coming in. We're going to have some green tomatoes here. We've got some leaves. And also my mom in her garden, she has a fence that is a bit of almost a brown with a bit of a reddish tinge. So we're going to be painting that in. I have gone ahead and I have sketched on the slats of the fence, and down here will be more brown where we can see a bit of the dirt. Now you'll see too in this other one that I had done previously, I had actually sketched it and then painted and then put my micron pen on top and then painted again. You can do that as well, but for today I want you to be able to see a little bit better as I paint. So we're going to go ahead, and I've sketched with the micron pen. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting everything nice and wet with my palette. I've got my water here. I'm actually going to start with the yellow, because one of the things you may notice is that there is a lot of yellow in this green. Like, it is a very light green. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to be taking some cadmium yellow or some lemon yellow, use either one, and I'm going to be going down some of these leaves. I almost said petals, but they're leaves, no petals today, right? And just putting in some yellow. I'm going to grab actually a bigger paintbrush as well, something that I can do a little bit more broad painting in. And again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be just touching some yellow over here where I'm seeing it. Not a ton, but a little bit. We always want to create different colors in our paintings, right? So I'm going to go ahead and have that. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. I'm actually going to take a little bit of the cadmium red and the brown and mix it together. Now this will probably be one where I come back and do some really nice layering in there. We're just going to do the first layer together today, but I'll show you what I ended up going through and changing a bit in that second layer in my other one. But I'm going to again lay down very light red brown, creating a bit of warmth. If you feel like it's too dark, what I would recommend you do, just take a paper towel and dab it a bit. The reason I like to lay this down first too is I can do some color blocking now, right? Of figuring out where everything is, so I don't unintentionally paint one of the fences green thinking it was a stalk of the tomato plant. And I'm just going to actually pull up some water and move down really carefully. Again, I just kind of consider this doing some color blocking. It'll help too for you to see where you will be painting. Now we don't want to color everything in as if it's a coloring page, right? So I'm going to leave some space because we want that beautiful light to catch. Also, this green is going to be a really nice way the red-brown will complement the green really, really nicely. Okay, so I've got a little bit under my tomatoes down here, a little bit under these stems, just moving around. The paintbrush is wet, but it's not excessively wet. I'm just moving down, and what I had done too is I had painted my slats down till about 2/3 of the way down the page, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take pretty much more just solid brown, and I'm going to paint brown down here. And I may add a little bit of umber to that so it looks like dirt, where we would be seeing the dirt in the garden. So I am going to grab some umber, that raw umber color, get it nice and wet, and I'm just going to dab it down in here. Okay, we're going to let that dry as I start moving around the different areas. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry, maybe add just a little bit because I do want a bit of a contrast. And remember, your watercolor always dries lighter than when it looks when you first put it on. So, okay, we've got that now. I'm going to go back with the green. I have a permanent green or a hooker's green, whichever one that you want. And now we're going to go ahead and start moving in. I'm going to add some more water here to my leaves and just gently painting in some of that green. I'm going right over that yellow because I don't really want it to look yellow. I want to pull out, I just want it to almost look a yellow green. I want that pop to come out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm laying down some of this color in here and dropping in a little bit of a darker color right in there, coming back up, coming over here. I do love the way that tomato plants smell when you get them on your hands and then you smell your fingers, and it has this wonderful garden smell that is unlike any other smell in the world. There is something so calming about going out. I'm going to use my smaller brush now and some of these smaller stems, and something so calming about going out and puttering in the garden, right? Lifting up the leaves, searching for the new tomatoes, searching to see if there's any bugs that need to be relocated to another area in the yard. I love the beauty of the leaves. They get so thick, and every day when I go out there, every time I go out, it's like the garden has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. At first, there was just incremental growth, and now it's like there's new leaves, there's new stalks everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and grab the hooker's green. It's a little bit darker, and lay that down. I love the beautiful leaves and the details in each one of them. Let me peek to make sure you can see this. You can. I'm going to come in a little bit closer so you can see too the different, how this is looking as we move a little bit closer. I haven't done the tomatoes yet, but those are coming. I'm doing some of the detail work in those beautiful lines that I can see. And you can see right here, I had sketched in a leaf behind this tomato, so I'm just going to do the outline for now. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to mix some yellow with the permanent green so it gets nice and light. And I'm going to just come back over here and adding a little bit of depth there, right? A little bit on that leaf, a little bit on this leaf down here. I wanted to give this one a little bit of a chance to dry so the brown wouldn't merge into it. I'm going to pick up this smaller brush. We're going to bring that green right back here for that stem and then that leaf. It's a little bit wetter on that one, and that's fine. That is just fine. I'm going to lay some of that lighter color right in between here, making sure to leave some white spots, right? Okay, so then let's go ahead and paint our green tomatoes. So you can see too, I've got a watermark here, but the green tomatoes, they're pretty light, but you can see some of the yellow on them too, and I want to make sure that we are including the variations of color. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got some cadmium yellow that I'm going to get very, very wet on my brush. And I'm just going to dab a bit here. And I can see some yellow right here that I'm going to dab out. And down on this one as well, some yellow down here. And now that I have that, I'm going to go back to the green yellow mixture. I'm going to pick up some of that. And I'm just going to very gently go again the outside. I see some darker area right in here, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. On this one, I see again some darker area. I'm just moving around, noticing where the light is falling on that green. not feeling the need to make it really, really dark right now. These are very light colored green tomatoes. And allowing that colors just to blend. Leave some white. The white's going to catch that light. I've got some darker area right underneath the stem. I'm going to add some green there. And then up here and right around here on this guy, I've got more shadowing over here. I'm going to put just a little bit of Hooker's green, only a little bit, because these I almost said potatoes. These tomatoes are quite light. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my very small brush next and see the beautiful crowns on top of the tomato. And I'll back this out over here. Again, the crown's right over here. That's distinguishing feature of the tomatoes in process. Growing, we've got that flowering bud that's still sticking on. It's quite dark in comparison, so I want to make sure I'm using a darker Hooker's green and saturating it. If you have, for example, a permanent green, which is a lighter green, add some blue to it. Not a lot, but just a little bit of that phthalo blue or whatever. If you have an ultramarine, that will work. But you do want a darker green on these flower stems, on this crown of that was a petal, and down here as well. And I'm just crowning these beautiful green tomatoes. There's the stalk. You might want to take this opportunity as well with that darker color to look and see, okay, I definitely have some darker areas in my garden, right? That green picking up on the bottom of the stems. Tomato plants are prolific. They just start growing everywhere all of a sudden. There's just leaves coming everywhere, new stems coming everywhere. And so use that small paintbrush to add some of that detail in. Also add some of your detail in. You'll notice the ends of the leaves of your tomato plants. They're not perfectly smooth, but they're not super jagged either. They definitely have some bends to them though. So I'm going to go ahead and create those curves. There is a couple of edges I've noticed in them, so I'm adding in a few edges. Again, anywhere where you feel like you want to add a bit more distinctive coloring, I've got some more down there. And again, this we're adding in that shadowing, really helping the painting to start coming together. Where the sun is just coming straight down, it's going to be lighter, but where it's hidden, right where we have leaves overneath the stems, it's going to be darker, right? Those are going to be in shadow. So for like this guy right here, he's going to be a lot in shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and do a darker green on this guy to emphasize the shadow. Okay, I'm going to come back now too with the lighter green just to finish up. And this is turning out really, really nicely. I'm going to pick up some yellow. I'm going to mix it with the green. And then we'll come back. I want a bit more yellow. That cadmium is such a nice sunny yellow too. So I'm going to pull that up. And then come back over here. Moving across that plant that's really that has its face up to the sun, but realizing too a little bit darker green on this stem. I'm going to pull that down here. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to add just a little bit more depth of color to this leaf. Not a lot. Just to create the way the shadows are falling on it, as well as the variations of the leaf. I'm going to add a bit of yellow in this one. And this guy we're going to just pull through. This looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and stop because I don't want to overpaint where it gets too wet. Now I love this. It's very watercolor sketchy. I can always come back in later too and add some more detail with the pen or leave it alone. Whatever. I'll let it sit for a minute and then make that decision. But know that you can make that decision too. You may want to come back and play just a little bit more. Or you can let it just sit here and just enjoy that kind of watercolor sketch look that it has. I think this is really fun. It's really pretty. And it is just a glimpse into the garden. Our precious place of just rest and what is soon to be a wonderful harvest. Okay, you guys, I will see you next time. Now that we've painted some lovely tomatoes, we're going to be moving on to beautiful squash blooms. I think you're gonna love painting these. We're gonna pull on some of the same colors that we used today, and it's gonna be so much fun. Remember, you can always add more detail later. I'm even seeing now where I may take that red color, and after this dries, I'll come back in and add in a layer of darker shadowing of the red fence in the background. I don't want to do it now though, because if the red and green mix together, it is going to turn into brown, and we definitely don't want that. I will go ahead though and add, now that I'm talking here, I'll add some darker over here, the dirt, where I had it to match up how dark it is over here. And that's also the benefit of just taking a few minutes, letting it sit, and then coming back, because you really start to see where you need to add some other colors. All right, lovely. Okay, I'll see you guys soon.